Greetings, my name's Dwayne, and this video is just going to cover how to make a gnome baseball cap. Now I've got two different sizes that I've made here, so you have a variety of different things, and I'm just going to give you some measurements. So you might want to get some paper, ruler, pen handy. I make the hats off of one piece of felt if you're using the 9x12 felt, either for the large or small. So I'm going to show you that. So you might want to have a piece of felt to put the pattern on and a button. That's about all that you need. Some thread to sew with or your hot glue gun. This can be made either way. The measurements, I'm going to give you those in just a moment here, but I've tried to make it so the large one would work best with like a sock gnome, or if you're making out of a cone gnome. It gives you a little bit more variety there, head size. If you're doing some of the soft sculpture, a lot of people are getting into that right now. It's got a bigger head to it, so it'll fit on the bigger gnomes there. The smaller one works well with the cone gnomes, those that come to a point there. So you have a little bit, little size there. Also, my other gnomes that my bodies can work either way with that. By the time I add the tops to it, or if I'm doing something where I'm doing like a clay face for it, I can do either of the hats there because I'm going to be putting stuff behind it there if I want to do a small one. So I tried to come up with two hats, different sizes, so you can have a choice there in making them. You can also try to do something in the middle. I'm still working on designs and everything, but what I needed to do was come up with the basic hat shape. So I'm going to give you the patterns here, show you how I came up with them, give you the measurements, and let you build from there. You can add to them. I'm going to show you some of the things too that I've tried to get into that I want to learn to build a little bit better on them. So maybe you could play with it too. I try to give you the basics and show you the basics on how to, and then you can do from there. So my pattern here for the large one is 2 inches across on 6 pieces. I'm going to be cutting out 6 pieces of felt to make my hat pieces here. So I got 2 inches across by 3 inches high. And what I found was the main thing that was really important was my curve that I have here. So I made a smaller piece first, made that out of cardstock, and I measured off just 1 inch on the bottom because I'm going to have it 2 inches. I'm going to be doubling it. So I measured 1 inch and went up 3 inches and cut that piece out. Set it down, just traced around it, traced the whole thing, and then flipped it over and traced it again. That's how I got that piece. Now, the reason I'm saying that the arch is the most important, because it's something you have to play with it, I tried where I came to more of a point, and it came to more of like a flower hat rather than a rounded hat. So there is a big difference. I use the same 2 inches on the small one here, but I came out with more of a pointed flower hat. So the importance in here is making this round at the top. It still comes to a little point up here, but not trying to just connect the dots on the side here. I don't want to have something pointed. I have to make sure it's rounded at the top there so I can get more of a rounded baseball cap. If I do the point, you get a nice flower hat, but that's not the purpose of this video. So that's one of my main tricks in finding out how to do the baseball cap, and I had to make 2 or 3 just to get a curve there on that. The other piece is the brim for that, and I cut out 2 pieces for the brim there so I can overlap them. Now these I hot glued together, and I'm thinking about going back and trying some where I can actually just do my stitching along and then turn it inside out. So a couple ways of doing that. And then I do a cardstock, smaller piece of cardstock that I put in the center there. So that gives me my basic hat there. So I take my pattern and my one piece of felt, and I just lay it out there, and I draw out 6 pieces, 2 pieces for my brim, and across the top here now, I take 1 inch, and I'm going the whole 12 inches here. This is going to be for the large hat. What I've done is I want to do something for the inside of the hat here to make it more sturdy and to also just add some more, character to it. And I'm going to glue that, take it and glue it on the inside of that. And that'll help give support too for the roundness and also for better fit on the gnome. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. So that's why I have this line going across here. So I'm going to cut out an inch strip there on that. So I've taken my pattern, drawn it out, and then I cut out all the pieces. Now you could draw out however you want. I'm using just a pen. I know some people use some of the other markers and everything that are erasable, that just come off and everything with the sewing and all that. I wasn't able to borrow one of my wife's without her knowing it, so I didn't do it. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that I put the sides that I have the lines on opposite each other, so it's going to be on the side there that's I'm going to fold in, so I'm not going to see those lines. Then I'm going to take a piece of thread, thread that's going to match the same color or close to it. Now this is another thing that I've had people question me on. That, they said they use regular thread, but they find that it doesn't, it's not holding up for some reason, or it's not as stiff as they need. I double my thread over and then knot it. So I actually have 2 strands going through there. Hopefully you can see that. I have 2 strands once I knot it, and that gives me some good strong thread there. So I thought about that when people were asking me, sending me questions on how I thread my needle and everything. I do that, and I do the blanket stitch. Now I do almost all hand stitched. I don't do anything on machine. This can be done with a glue gun. You can glue your seams together and then turn it inside out. I do a blanket stitch, and I do, for those that are more inclined in sewing, I try to go for like a 1/8 seam allowance on it. And the blanket stitch, simply I go up through the top, come down, and then I go right through my loop there. And I do have stitch guides too. I've done videos where I've done stitch guides if you need to learn how to pace it, how to put it, separate it there. I do have other videos out, and there are videos on how to do the blanket stitch. But it is simply just going from the top, going down, and then coming right back up through the middle there. The blanket stitch is a great stitch too if you're detailing on the outside. It really looks nice and everything once you get it down. I like using embroidery thread and using like a different color to highlight. But for this here, we're using a color that matches along with our felt. And you're just going to give me a moment here. I'm trying to go all the way up to show you, because all I'm doing is I'm going to go up to the point here. And then once we get this made, we're going to add all 6 sections. And just going through. Now I'm going to show you how to make the larger cap. The smaller cap, I'll give you the dimensions on that too. The sizes are a little bit different. As I said, I started out with a 2-inch by 3-inch for the larger. The smaller one, 1.5-inch by 2-inch for the 6 pieces that you'll need for the sides of the hat. I'm really not a big sports fan, so I really don't know the terms. So there might be some other name for a baseball cap. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be able to make caps that they can do for their own favorite sports team. I know there's a lot of times, especially football, everybody's doing the football ones, but everybody's, come spring, summer here, want to do some of the baseball. So when I get up to the top here, I get up to my corner, I'm just going to tie that off. The other thing I could do is if I wanted to put another side on it right now and just go down the side, I could do that too. I could just, with my thread before I tie it off, make sure my writing, my pen marks are on the inside there, and I could just keep going around down to there. I typically stop here, cut it off, and then start at the bottom again. But you can do that too. You can put that on there, save you a little bit of time, save you a little bit of threading back up again. It's just start at the top here in the corner and work your way down. Again, I'm just doing the blanket stitch there. So I sew all the way down there. So let me grab another one here where I've already got my pieces together there. And now I just need to put the 6th one together. And I'm going to sew it again, but as I said earlier, you can hot glue all your seams together there. So this is giving you, by putting the 6 panels in there, the basic shape. You can see how with it being rounded, I'm not coming out with this point up to the top. I'm trying to get this together just to quickly show you how to put it together. As I said, it's all done just on one piece of felt. Try to make it simple there. The 9x12 that you can pick up at any of the craft stores or order online. Most of us have that, or you can even do it out of your scraps. I use this color a lot, this green. I love this green here. Blues are great too, especially with the baseball cap there. Denim look. That's another thing that you can try to do. Use denim. Use some different fabrics that way. I like to have something where it's felt that doesn't fray on me or anything, that I can put together easily. So that's why I use the felt. I wouldn't recommend the fleece with this. I know a lot of people like to make fleece hats, and I like the fleece pointed hats, but the fleece is going to not be sturdy enough. Felt or denim are probably your best bets for making the baseball caps. If you have an old pair of jeans, it might be something that you want to try, because that might look really nice in a baseball cap. That might be one of my next ventures to try that out to see there. But again, that's usually the best fabric to make it out of instead of going with, the fleece or any other fabric there. And here I'm just bringing the top together. I'm not as concerned sewing it there as much, as long as I get it knotted off, because it's going to, number one, be turned inside out. Number two, I'm going to be putting a button on there. And just cut that off there, show you. So now I have my 6 pieces. All I'm doing is turning this inside out. I have my basic cap. Now for the brim, I've cut out 2 pieces. And this is what I did to actually get my brim here. I took the base from my basic gnome, from any of my basic, either cone or any of the felt ones that I do. And it's a 2-inch diameter. And I just placed it down there and worked with it, cutting around and trying to get the right shape that I liked. So it's almost like a half circle. Because what you want to do, if you look at a baseball cap, the brim really comes almost to that one side, to the other side. I didn't want to have too big of a brim on here. This one I think I made just a little bit larger, but they're going to come close to it. Baseball cap's going to come right to about those edges. So you can design your brim a little bit how you want to, but that's basically what I do, is just use a semi-circle on that. For the cardstock, what I wanted to do on the inside was just to give it some stability. Now, again, you don't have to, but I wanted to have something that was going to be a little bit more rigid, because usually the baseball cap has something rigid. I'm going to use cardstock, but I'm going to cut it down so I can fit it inside there. And I want to have about a 1/4 inch on the back side, because the 1/4 inch there is going to be glued to the inside here of the hat. So I went ahead and glued the cardstock down and then glued that together. The other option you can do is to again do your stitching around. Whether you do the blanket stitch, whether you do a sewing machine, do your stitching around and then turn it inside out and then put your cardstock in. I'm just going to show you with the hot glue here. Just glue my piece of extra cardstock down here. Now this is where too, if you want to be fancy, if you do like a sewing machine and you don't want to put cardstock in there, but you want to put this together, put two pieces, a lot of baseball caps have the stitching around it 2 or 3 times. So you can, just put the design into it there. So I'm not going to glue down at the very bottom here. I want to leave that 1/4 inch there. I just don't want the glue stiffening it. Just run glue across. Glue my 2 pieces together. And then if you look at a baseball cap, normally there is a seam, comes right down the middle here. So what I'm going to do is just glue that right inside there. Like I said, I didn't glue this down. Just didn't want it stiff there. Run a little bit of glue across here. Place my brim on my cap. Now here's where I got that 1-inch piece. Now this is by 12 inch. It's probably only going to need to be about 10.5 inches, because by the time I sewed that together and everything, I'm going to find a spot. It doesn't really matter where, and glue that all the way around on the inside. And again, I could just glue it to where the seams come together. I can glue it to the hat there. I'm using it basically for an adjustment. I'm not going to put it on there right now all together, but I do that so I can adjust for the head size of the gnome. I may not need that. If I got something where it's a ball on top there, if I'm using like a pool noodle and it's got a ball on top, I may not need this inside. If I got something where I'm using like my regular pattern, I may want to put just a little extra in there to adjust my size. That's going to give me a little bit of extra padding in there. And I can either overlap this or cut that piece off when I put that together. But that also, as I said, gives it stability, gives it a little bit more of that roundness on the outside there for your baseball cap on there. The only other thing that's left to do is to find a button. Any button will do. And I look for something that's going to be just a flat button, not something that's got something come out there. I'm going to be putting that up there. What I do is just take another piece of felt. Anything off of, I still have felt left on here. Just glue that down. Fold it over if you want. Just glue felt to both sides. And then cut it out. And once I've cut it out, I just glue that to the top. So I know I run through this rather quickly here, but just trying to give you an idea on how I come up with and make the baseball caps there for you. So once I've put that together, we'll see if we can cut out a little piece here just to give it a finished here. I don't want to finish the video up without making more of a finished look to it. We're just gonna put that on there. Glue my button down. A little glue to the top there. And then we're going to be all ready for baseball season here. So and as I said, then I just cut around. Trying to do it quickly here, maybe not as neatly as here, but just making sure it's glued down there. Give me my button. Add a little touch of glue to the top there again. And like I said, trying to quickly do something here. We got our baseball cap. So just to give you an idea there, measurements here again. Smaller one's going to be just a little bit different here. I use a 1.5 across the bottom there, 2 inches versus the 2 inches going up by 3 inches on there. 2 1/4 across on the bottom one for the small one, 1.5 up on my semicircle. Again, you could play with the circle there too. The small one came out really nice as far as a brim on there too. I don't put the strip inside there. It's small enough as it is to fit on things, to fit on my gnomes there, to fit on the heads there. So, and then, as I said, cutting out my cardstock, putting in there. I'll probably try to give it a try to see what it looks like with the sewing on there and turning it inside out just to give it more there. But that's my basic hat and how to do my baseball cap. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing what you do. As I said, this is just giving you the basics. Look forward to seeing what you can do and how you can make your designs.